Shouldn't financial advice focus on you, your goals, challenges, dreams for the future? At Modern Woodman, our goal is to help you plan for your financial security. Our representatives are people you can trust to help bring your dreams to life. Modern Woodman can help you plan for all stages of life, from protection to saving to retirement.
Contact your local representative at Arthur today at 989-834-3300.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
This podcast contains some strong language and some stories involving violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Warfighters United, where veterans' voices are heard and transitional resources and programs provided. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have a little talking session about modern-day politics, modern-day military tactics, statistics, and what's going on with our budget and whatnot for at least the state of Michigan and the United States. And joining me today, I have my co-host, Joanie Kilchermann.
Hey,
welcome
everybody.
to Warfighters United, Joanie.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so today I wanted to talk about our military as it sits right now. And to be honest with you, over the last 4 years, our military has really decreased in size. It's gotten a lot weaker. And over the last 6 months, has become a lot stronger and a lot more world recognized than it has been in the last 4 years. In fact, as of this date, our military recruitment efforts have jumped 15%. Why would you think that would be?
Because nowadays people are more passionate, I feel like, about the country and the direction that the country's going. And there's a lot of emotions out there in this country.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. There are a lot of emotions out there in this country, but I believe that with our new president and our new military Secretary of War, they have definitely started directing us in the right process. So, you know, a couple years ago, they put the first transgender person at the White House. It was a Navy sailor wearing a skirt. A lot of the rules and regulations, like a lot of people think that the military is open for everybody. And it's not. You know, there's a lot of disqualifications. There's a lot of things that don't allow you to join the service. For one issue, how about medical? Right? If you have flat feet, if you have diabetes, if you have certain diseases, you're automatically told you can't join the military.
What do you mean flat feet?
Flat feet?
Yeah.
So when you go to MEPS, they make you walk like a duck. And so you're, walking like a duck. And if your feet are flat, that can disqualify you from the military service.
Interesting. I had no idea about that.
Yeah. And the same thing, if you have diabetes, well, how do you control your diabetes on the battlefield? It's not really a viable option. So they don't allow you to join. Height and weight restrictions, right? If you're too obese, can't join. Physical performance fitness tests. If you can't do your fitness tests and you can't pass those before you leave MEPS, you don't leave MEPS. And so, same thing when you're in boot camp. Say you barely passed your physical and you get into boot camp, at least in the Marine Corps, they had we call it the fat body platoon, right? These guys would work out every day until they met the requirements. And if they couldn't, they'd get admin stepped out. And so over the last 4 years, before this last year, that has become quite relaxed. And if you've heard our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and I love the Secretary of War, by the way, Department Secretary of Defense, I think Secretary of War is right up the alley of what it is. And it starts creating a persona or an outlook from worlds coming into the United States about how we're becoming stronger. But on top of that, nobody ever promised everybody that they could join the military. And so the fact that if you're this way, if you're that way, if you're too obese, or if you have diseases you can't join, that's always been the case. It's never changed. But for some reason, about over the last 4 years, they thought it did. And they thought everybody had a right to join. You have a right to try out. They don't guarantee you that you're going to make a spot. which is what the MEPS is for in every state in the United States, to filter those people out, to make sure when our military has those recruits go to boot camp that they're physically fit, they're mentally fit enough to, withstand the 13 weeks, 9 weeks, 8 weeks, or 6 weeks of boot camp to make it to the fleet, to learn your military occupational specialty and go forward.
Right. Just like any other job, when you're applying for a job, if you're not fit, you're not going to get the job. My daughter's in first grade. If her teacher was incompetent, I wouldn't want her teaching my child, just like the military needs to have those restrictions.
Well, and that's the same thing. So over the last 4 years, there's been, and there's some gender, whether you're a woman or a male, women are now in combat MOSs. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are some women, and I've met them in the Marine Corps, that have met the physical, the physical restraints of everything you need to do. They can do it better than men, and they earn their spot. And so just recently, the Secretary of War said, we're not going to have lower standards just because they're a woman. They're going to have the same standards. So that has changed. That's one of the things that have changed in our military over the last year, is that now the standards to reach, say you want to do recon, or you want to be a MARSOC Raider in the Marine Corps. Well, 2 years ago, they had a lower standard. So where men had to reach this standard, women were below that, and they only had to do this much to get into that same field. Well, now those standards are the same, and a lot of people will say that's gender biased based on this or that. No, it's the most fit and the most apt to that military occupational specialty should be in those jobs. And right. It's based on merit, and it's the whole merit base that they've been talking about on the news, to where if you can reach that qualification, awesome, then you'll get in. But if you can't, we're not going to lower it because you're a female. And I believe in the military is one place where that makes sense.
Yes, I agree. As a woman, I know there's things that I can do that's better than a man. You know what I mean? And I'm probably stronger than a lot of them as well. And it makes me want to work even harder just to prove that. So I agree with that. Get them, ladies.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I've met many women in the military that are tougher than me, bigger, better, and can do the job better than me. And if that's the case, I believe those women should be in those spots.
Yeah, just like a doctor. The men that are the doctors has to be a lot smarter than the lady doctors. I just don't understand the whole separation of men and women, because cut that part out. I don't know where I'm going with it.
Yeah. Well, so how big is our military? So right now we have approximately 1.32 million active duty service members and almost 2.4 million active duty and reservists across the nation. And so what you've been seeing is we have our problem cities just like everywhere else, and our National Guard. So right now we just sent some Michigan National Guard down to the Texas border to help do border patrol, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, we're starting to use our National Guard to, fight the enemy within. And what do I mean by enemy? Well, enemy, illegal immigrants, all the crime-ridden places. We're making America safer, but there's a lot of people that hate the fact that we're using our military to govern in the United States. I don't really see a problem with that if we're making this place better for our kids, our children,
right,
our everyday family members, or mothers, or fathers, or grandfathers. Tell an old lady who is in Chicago, per se, in the worst neighborhood, and she's been watching a guy sling crack for the last year, and now our troops are coming in not to arrest them, because that's not their job, but to protect our federal facilities and assist ICE and everywhere else. I don't really see a problem with that, but there's a lot of people that do.
So what they're there for mainly is just their presence. Their presence makes the bad guys not be bad, right?
Yeah, it deters
Right.
the crime.
Right. They're like a hall pat. Who's the people in the schools that watches the, like the hall monitor? They're like the hall monitor. They're making sure order is kept. And that's very important because if there's no order, what do we have? Chaos. And chaos is what we've been living in for a long time in this country.
Well, especially with our protests. Everybody likes to, you got two parts. And I believe it's somewhere in the middle. They've been doing these massive protests where they destroy, like say in Wisconsin, when they destroyed that city in Wisconsin, or, a lot of these protests that they were saying, oh, they're freedom of speech. That's awesome. They have a right to do that. That's what we fight for. But when they start destroying, facilities, and they start destroying city blocks and people who have stores that are just everyday people who have, say a grocery store.
Trying to live the American dream.
Yeah, trying to.
Yeah.
And then these protesters come in, they break the windows, they, raid the place. I don't know how many times, especially in California, where, these smash and grab people come in, they break the window, they get in, they take all the stuff, and then, there's 10 to 15
What do you
people.
think they're trying to accomplish when they're destroying things?
Well, this definitely makes America feel unsafe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so why wouldn't America want for our streets to be safer? Besides politics. I feel like politics and
that's all it comes down to. That's all it is.
It is.
Yeah.
And so what people don't understand is when you join the military, one of the first things you do is you put your hand in the air and you vow to protect America, whether it's in another country or in America, whether it's abroad or here, you vow to protect the United States. And in fact, you're a piece of government property. I can't tell you enough. I think there was one time I got a bad sunburn fishing in San Diego, and I almost got NJP'd because it was destruction of government property because I had blisters on my back and couldn't do pull-ups.
Oh my God.
Right? And so, we vow to defend our country and our nation from enemies, foreign or domestic. Well, domestic, that means here in the United States. Well, when you have open borders and over 15, 20 million people come through those open borders from a whole bunch of bad countries, they start doing the same criminal activity they did, say, down in Venezuela or in Mexico or South America or Africa or wherever they're coming from, and they walk right in. That's a domestic terrorist to me. If they're coming in and just the other day they found a guy in the United States that came in through our borders that was a part of the October 7th Israel attack.
Oh, wow.
How is he in America?
Right.
Right. Well, he got in and here we are, giving them subsidies. We're, they're paying for health care and all this stuff. And that's what our real government shutdown right now is about, is they want us to spend our tax dollars to give it to the illegal immigrants for their health care and all of this stuff. And I'm all about immigrants coming into the United States. I'm all about them doing it the proper way. Right?
Yeah.
If you do it the proper way, then you deserve to be here.
Exactly.
But if you do it in the improper way, I don't really agree with that because, everybody pays taxes in the United States. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, they come after you. The IRS comes after you. Right? You just don't have a business say, I'm not going to pay a tax. But all of those taxes that we're getting charged, we're giving it away. And that's what the government shutdown right now is coming to. And when you think about our government shutdown, our military almost didn't get paid last Wednesday.
Right.
Right? And if it wasn't for President Trump telling, our Secretary of War, Hegseth, to find the funds to pay our military last Wednesday, they would have never got paid.
Mm-mm-mm.
Right? And then what happens to that? Well, as soon as they paid our military last Wednesday, the Democrats they started creating legislation to make sure that they couldn't pay them in 2 weeks from now. And how horrible is it that you have all of these almost 2 million people who volunteered to support our country, defend our country,
Put their lives on the line.
To defend our nation. And now, because of politics, whether it's right or wrong, or are in a standoff on the budget stuff, now our troops aren't going to get paid. And when they do find the money to pay them this last week, now they're trying to create legislation to say you can't do that again.
That's atrocious. That's insane.
It is insane. Yeah, if you're shutting down the whole government,
yeah,
then why are our congressmen and our senators and everybody who works for the government getting paid, but yet the people who put their lives on the line aren't?
Right.
Or,
the biggest sacrifice that a citizen can make, they chose to make, and the government's just giving them 2 middle fingers.
And well, and to be honest with you, to create legislation to make sure that couldn't happen again is despicable to me.
Absolutely.
And whoever's creating that legislation, I'm not sure which, I think it's Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Those guys should be fired. Like, if you're not going to support our military, what are you doing in our Congress?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because you guys are those ones that are supposed to, make sure that our military is taken care of. And to be honest with you, us growing 15% over the last year and hitting all of our marks, whether it's Army, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force, Space Force, that shows you that there's a new a new spark in our military, resurgence. And now you have younger members loving what our military is doing. Mm-hmm. They're starting to join up. And to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't have made it in the military over the last 4 years. I know myself, and I would have probably gotten myself in trouble for either hazing or doing something to, get myself in trouble. Like, I probably couldn't have made it like I did from 2002 to 2006. And, think about us coming out of Afghanistan. With 13 service members died because of the way we pulled out. Just within a month, we just decided, hey, we're going to pull out. And then we gave millions upon millions of dollars of our equipment and our vehicles and everything that was left behind, our weaponry. And then here we got to watch the Mujahideen and the jihadists and these people with our weapons, our camis on, celebrating in the streets. Like that should have never happened.
Right.
Those 13 servicemen and women should have, and there's been, a lot of looking into that because of the way they did it. And granted, we are out of war now. We're in a peacetime, but that doesn't mean the peacetime will stay.
Right.
And, with our modern technology that our military is going through right now, they're changing at a significant base, especially with AI technology, drone technology.
Yeah, not a lot of frontline people out there.
No, and so what they're doing is they're using the technology that we have. So like back in my day, the Marines were first ones in, first ones to fight. Everybody usually followed us as we started, going through and taking over cities in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then everybody came in behind us and they started, the Army would start creating pauses, bases and this and that. And we were the fighting force. Well, now with our drone technology, what do you think the United States is learning from the Ukraine war? Right? We're fighting Russia, who supposedly was like one of the biggest fighting forces in the world. And a lot of people were scared. Well, I'm here to tell you, they lost a lot of kudos on that. They lost a lot of respect. Not only because, it's different over there.
Oh, yeah.
When I talk to my friends that served in Ukraine, they don't have combat medics on the front lines. You have to go 2 miles to get to them. So if you get shot, you'd be lucky if you made it that 2 miles.
Yeah.
On the other aspect, they don't have military vehicles. They're using regular trucks, regular cars to convoy to places, anti-tank mines. But then you start talking about the drone technology and what we're using. I mean, America is really learning and enhancing our military off what we're learning from other wars, right? And when you think about the technology, say, you fly the drone, it can go so many miles, you can drop bombs from that. Mm-hmm. No use to put guys' lives in danger anymore if you don't need to, right? And then think about the AI technology dogs, where they have robot dogs that can, pie around, look around corners, go down the street and see what's down the street before you put your body into the line of fire. Jesus. Right? Or our satellite capabilities where, from space, you can look down on an area and see what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And so as these technologies are growing, our military is also changing. Mm-hmm. So the Marine Corps, we gave away all of our tanks. The Army has them. By 2030, they want to give away our Amtraks, give them to the Army. They want to give away a lot of the stuff that we would use in the Marine Corps. And what they're doing is they're taking what I consider a playbook out of the EU handbook, right? You have the Marines, and most everybody else is in the Army, and the Marines is the special force. So Marines are really starting to become MARSOC raiders all over the place. They're going to become a smaller, more specialized force where maybe in 5 years they're going to say the Army's the 911 force across the world. And by the way, what do you think about the United States being the world's
babysitter?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's annoying. Let's just focus on us for a while, right? Let's.
America
I understand.
first.
Yes, America first. I understand that you need to be aware of what's going on in the world, but we don't need to control it. We're spending a lot of time and money into trying to control. Let's just take a step back, United States, and just focus on what we can actually fix within our country. We can't fix things in other people's countries. Let's work on our own first, then worry about what's going on. I always say this, like, we're like the nosy neighbor. You know what I mean? Always peeking over, trying to see what they're doing, talking about. Who cares? Let's look in our own backyard.
Well, and that's what we've been doing this year.
Yeah.
It's a total night and day difference from a year ago. We're getting the bad people out of our backyard, and we're putting them back to where they came from. Yeah. Which I believe is a great thing. Mm-hmm. America has so much poverty when it comes to our homeless veterans.
Yeah.
Why are we funding these things in other countries that we should never fund? Right? Why can't we take that funding and put it back into America? Mm-hmm. Hello, I'm Eric Calley from the Warfighters United podcast, and Modern Woodmen Fraternal Financial is hosting the 4th annual Trucking for Troops Veteran Raffle to benefit local veterans. The raffle's grand prize will be a brand new 2026 Chevrolet Silverado Crew Cab 4x4. Raffle tickets are $100 each. The drawing will take place on November 10th at 2 p.m. All proceeds from the raffle tickets will go towards supporting veterans. All tickets can be purchased at Modern Woodmen, Shaheen Chevrolet, or the VFW Post 2406 in Charlotte, right? And I hate to be the person, but funding general neutral studies over in some foreign African land and giving them millions and millions of dollars to do it, or there's a whole list of things that the Doge cut out, which when I saw that list, I was flabbergasted.
Yeah,
like. We can't take care of our homeless veterans or even our veterans half the time.
Correct.
And that's 1% of America. But we're going to go ahead and, if they took the funding that they were funding all these researches and all this stuff that they send to other countries, and we put that into our VA services, our veteran services, just think of how much better it would get.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And what kills me about the Veteran Affairs Agency, or the Veterans Affairs, the VA, is that once you get out, say you're wounded, ill and injured, you go to the VA. So like Ann Arbor, they have the agreement with U of M, right? And so all these people that went to school to become doctors, they have to do an internship, just like anywhere else in a hospital or whatnot. But I don't believe if you fight for your country and you're part of that 1% that was willing to die for your country, why are we the nation's guinea pigs for these doctors that are almost doctors?
Well, here's my side to that. My general doctor, I love to go to at Sparrow, their residents, because it's still fresh in their mind and they still care. You know, you get those old guys, ladies about to retire, they don't care anymore. You're just another name on the list. Like these kids care. So that's where I disagree with you in there. I could be wrong. I've never been to the VA, but my doctor, shout out over there. She's great.
Yeah. Well, so what I mean by that is, so I'll give you a couple circumstances. So I had a lump in my throat and took me about a month and a half, 2 months after biopsies and everything for them to, decide to cut it out. And, you get put under, cut the whole neck lining, they lift it up,
Ugh.
right? And, they have what's called fellows. Fellows are almost doctors doing their internship, and they use us as guinea pigs. And so what happened? They accidentally cut a nerve in my neck.
Oh, no.
Right? And now I'm numb from my ear to my chin on the bottom side, and it never came back. And when I asked them, I said, "Will this ever come back?" And they said, "Oh, we're sorry. We must have nicked a nerve." And that's what you get, right? Or, here's another one when I took the lump out of my shoulder a year and a half ago, right? Took 2 doctors because the first doctor couldn't do it. And so I ended up being under longer. What was supposed to be an 1.5 inch incision turned into a 5-inch incision. And everything just went to crap. But we being a part of the VA can't really do anything about it. They're a teaching facility. I just feel like our veterans deserve more. Yeah,
absolutely.
Than to be taught on.
Right.
Right? They've already put their lives in danger. Mm-hmm. They've already served overseas. And now we get interns who are pretty much doctors, but not all the way, that now get to practice on us before they leave the VA and go somewhere to a private practice. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't seem right to me. And then our funding with the VA. There is so many more treatments out there that are guys with post-traumatic stress, like hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment. Why is it that the VA doesn't allow that? Because of money, right?
Ridiculous.
And so, it's funny when they put a new medicine out on the market, say, we'll use Wellbutrin as one. Everybody, that's a psych med that they like to put everybody on.
Don't they prescribe that too when someone wants to quit smoking?
They can too.
Yeah.
Well, so what did it take for Wellbutrin to hit the market? 6 months trial, right? Because they know that once that drug hits the market, that drug's going to make them millions, if not billions of dollars across the market, right? Well, here you have a treatment like hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment that is free, or not free, but it's not going to make money, but it does the most amount of benefit with the least amount of hiccups, or as in hiccup, I mean the least. It's not invasive. You take medications, you get adverse effects. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't get adverse effects from 100% oxygen.
Right.
Right? And so here you have a treatment that helps with traumatic brain injury, helps with post-traumatic stress. It helps with the filtering of the blood through the body. And it's the least invasive treatment I've ever had, but it did the most progress when it came to brain thought, my mind, and the scans don't lie. Scans, you get a scan beforehand, you get a scan afterwards, and it tells where your brain was healing because of the treatment.
No kidding.
But because they can't make billions of dollars on hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment like they can with medicines, that's now at least a 5 to 6 year study for them to be able to say, oh, it helps.
Wow.
Where if it's a medication, 6 weeks, 6 months, maybe a year, then that medication hits market because they know they can make money on it.
Yeah.
Right? But if you can't make money on it, they don't want to give us that, they don't want to give us that treatment. And so right now, hyperbaric oxygen, hopefully by 2028, like another 3 years, that will be a proven treatment that they'll be able to start using at the VA after it meets all the credentials of the study.
Jeez.
I think it's House Bill 118. But that just goes to show you where it's kind of like, you know, if you get out of the military and you go to the VA and you say, I think I'm depressed, next thing you know, you got a handful of pills.
Right.
Right? And, 2 weeks to a month later, you go back and say, yeah, it's making me feel this way or that way. And then, you know, the side effects. Well, no veteran ever reads the fine print on the side effects.
Nobody does.
Right? And that's where Wellbutrin comes into play. Well, if you have TBI, you should never, ever take Wellbutrin because it causes, suicidal ideations. It causes a lot of issues for guys with traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Well, from 2001 to 2007, all of those veterans that got out in those 6 years that have been blown up, who didn't know they had TBI, probably got put on those medications.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure a certain percent of those people that committed suicide were on those medications. Mm-hmm. They didn't know because of misdiagnosis or, you know, traumatic brain injury, didn't even get on the spectrum until 2007. Mm-mm. Right? So you have 6 years of veterans going in and out. Millions of people.
Yeah.
That didn't even know they had it. And then they went to the VA and they said, oh, I feel this way. And they get the drugs. And next thing you know, those drugs interact in a wrong way. And they think life's better off dead. And that's just one circumstance.
Yeah, just one.
But, you know, there's thousands of drugs out there.
So let me ask you this. So let's say, because there's a million Medi-Spas around, right? Like, what if these Medi-Spas started to get these hyperbaric chambers? Would you, being a veteran, would you be able to, on your own personal time, do this stuff, go and do that? Or do you have to get every medical decision that you ever make cleared by the VA?
So the VA would never pay for that unless it was a proven treatment.
But
even our medical, you know, say if you have Medicare A, Medicare B, or your insurance, your insurance won't even pay for hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment.
You know, let's just perfect world it was affordable. Could you go and do that without the VA's permission, or would you have to get, okay, because I didn't know how far deep it went being government property. You know what I mean? If you had...
Well, once you get out, you're not government property anymore. You know, you do usually 4 years in, then you got 4 years inactive. And anytime in that 4 years in active service, you can get called back up to go back in. And in fact, I think it was 2008, I got recalled. I had to go down to Detroit and go through another screening, and I got medically disqualified because of the stuff that I was doing at the VA already. But my friends who weren't at the VA, they got recalled and they went back in and went overseas for another tour. And so during that inactive time, you're still government property. And so at any time, the government can call you back up and you have to go. Right? Unless you're disqualified for some reason. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean by our military is not open to everybody. And somehow they keep portraying this assumption that anybody can do it.
Right.
No, there's so many disqualifications. Like, you know, at one point in time, they had a problem with tattoos. People who had tattoos that are showing on their hands and stuff like that. You had to get a waiver.
Oh, wow.
You had to get a waiver for tattoos or some, you know, misdemeanors. So if you got a drunk driving or something or a minor in possession, you might have to get a waiver for that. Right? Or, you know, if you have, you know, certain medical diagnoses that aren't, that wouldn't affect you in a combat zone, they can get waivers for some of those. But a lot of them just disqualify you. So not everybody can join.
Right. Not even somebody who did tours. Right.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of things that come into play. And I think that's where some of America's society gets it wrong, that not everybody is allowed to join the military. They've always scrutinized who gets to join and who doesn't. And so the fact that you know, people have all these rights, when you sign on that dotted line, all your rights are gone.
Right.
Your only right is to serve the military and do what you're told. And that's what our men and women volunteer to do every single day. And thank God we have them.
Right.
And we're finally going in the right direction, and people across the world are starting to recognize that we are a powerhouse now. And, it was like the other day when, this is our 250th anniversary of not only the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force. We've been here for 250 years. And over that 250 years, it's amazing how far we've came. But, just like anything else, when new people take over, people get cut, the military gets weaker. They don't, they spend more on other things versus our military making it stronger. And for once this last year, we're actually spending money on our military. We're transforming it. And when the Secretary of War told all the generals at the Pentagon, if they don't meet their height and weight restrictions, maybe they should resign. I tell you what, I think that's great, because everybody from top to bottom should be in the best fitness that they can be at their age group.
Yeah, not just for themselves, but for all of the people that are around them.
You got the guy on the right and the left, right? Those are the guys on the battlefield that are protecting your back.
Yeah.
The politicians here, they don't have anything to do with the guys who are serving overseas.
Right.
Right? It's the guy on the right and left. So why wouldn't you want the guy on the right and left to be just as fit or know his job just as well as you do, be able to, if you got shot, they're going to have to carry you out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, if you can't do that, and that's what I love about the combat fitness test. So the Marine Corps has a combat fitness test. It's different from when I was in. When I was in, the fitness to the fitness test was 20 pull-ups, 3-mile run, and 100 crunches. Well, now they've sanctioned it to where those 3 things are there, but now you have a combat fitness test where you're doing an oat course in utes and boots, and you're dragging. You're timed on it. You have to do all these obstacles and capabilities. And all of that goes into a number rating system to give you a PFT score.
Okay.
And that's how that PFT score adds into your stuff of time of service. And that's how you start getting promoted. Right?
Okay.
And stronger they make that performance fitness test, the more we weed out the weak.
Yeah.
And we start becoming a stronger force.
Yeah. Yeah. No, when I was a corrections officer, I wish that they had something similar, because I was young. I was in my early 20s, but there was a lot of people, when there was a call to assistance, they would have to say, don't run, because they would be out of breath and they wouldn't be able to help you when they got there. Like, what if you were getting your ass kicked by an inmate and the closest person to you is not going to get there in time because out of shape, all those things. It's very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in those positions, when you have to be top notch. There's no doubt about it. So I agree with that in the Department of Corrections. I know that they're very understaffed, but they should adopt that same philosophy.
Yeah, and so, when we're talking about like the budget across America and how that's shut down, well, let's focus on Michigan a little bit. So the Michigan veterans, I believe, deserve better leadership from the state of Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
And so just on October 8th, the Michigan budget was passed and signed into law. That budget signed with a $1.7 million cut to the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency new fiscal year budget. Yet the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs Agency budget increased by $14 million. This increase was $4 million from the federal government and $10.4 million increase from the Michigan General Fund. So the veteran services, VSOs in the state, going so well that the agency told the legislator they can do with $1.7 million less of the coming year? No, that's not the case. And so since the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency falls under the jurisdiction of the DMVA, or the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, that MVAA lead the effort to have the budget cut? Probably not. Did the DMVA undercut them? It's obvious that the DMVA was able to make an argument to increase the military spending, but failed when it came to our veterans. The legislative staff at the MVAA and the DMVA working together for the same goals. So who's responsible for the budget cut? Well, after the budget was signed by Governor Whitmer, the MVAA announced the cancellation of the Women's Veterans Conference, presumably due to the budget cuts affecting the agency. However, like this email that I had, the question should be asked, why does the MVAA need to spend government budget money to put on such an event? The MVAA has a program of veteran-friendly companies to present certificates for being veteran-friendly employers. Did MVAA not approach enough companies to sponsor the event to pay for the event? I think that the event would have been easy to put on if they went to those sponsors.
Yeah.
But then on the 14th, the MVAA, not the agency director, issued a lukewarm apology to the veterans and announced that they would reschedule the event because they had so much back from that. But the damage of them cutting the budget by $1.7 million is huge.
Huge.
That means that our veterans are going to have longer wait times.
Oh, yeah.
To get their, to get their claims dealt with, to be able to get the money for their disabilities, to be able to live.
Right.
Right.
What is the typical wait time right now at the VA?
Well, it was anywhere from 3 to 6 months, which is good. They've made huge leaps and bounds. When I got out in 2006, it took me till 2010.
No.
Took 4 years. And so from 2010 to 2025, being less than 6 months, it's pretty good wait time. But now with these budget cuts, that 3 to 6 months might turn into a year.
Right.
Right? But, what strikes me as weird is until when Michigan made the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency to act as another VSO for the state, the money would go from the state of Michigan, and then the state of Michigan, the DMVA, would disperse it to all the veteran service organizations. But once they made the MVAA, now the DMVA, they give it to the MVAA, and then the MVAA give it to all the veteran service organizations. And then they charge to do that. And so and what I mean by charge is they say, okay, so now that since we have to spend all this time to make sure the VSOs get all the budget money that comes from the state and from the federal government, well, that's going to come at a price. And so now you have another VSO taking a cut of that money that could be used for other VSO.
Right.
So our VSO grant, a program that's existed for more than 60 years, yet time and time again, the state cannot seem to pay properly. It also seems strange because the MVAA uses $200,000 from the grant for 2 full-time employees to monitor it. There are 2 things that these men and women serve and have served understand. You don't mess with the pay and you don't mess with the mail. I agree with Mark Sutton. He's a Marine veteran. He was part of the American Legion. He's part of the Marine Corps League's detachment. That we should require more, not less.
Absolutely.
And if they have 2 full-time employees that cost $200,000, then why can't we get our pay on time?
Exactly.
Right? Why can't we? It shouldn't be, oh, your budget came out on this date and we'll get it to you whenever you need it, or we'll give it to you when we decide to give it to you.
Right.
It should be, we get it on this date, you get it on this date. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts. That's
Payroll
the money you're going to
companies
get.
across the world do this. Why can't they get it together?
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that the state of Michigan needs to look into. And to be honest with you, that's why we have some of these events trying to make money for veteran service organizations.
Yeah.
Because our VSOs have been cut and they're not being able to do the job. And so the people who aren't cut end up getting a double workload to try to go through all the files as if we didn't cut anybody. But if we can't afford to pay them, they can't afford to work.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just amazing to me that when we get an increase in the budget, somehow the VSOs get cut.
Right.
And, where is that money going to? Where does the increase of the money go to? It's supposed to go to our veterans. If it increased by $14 million, then we should have enough money we should have $4 million more to pay our guys.
Right.
And so it just, the state of Michigan needs to get on their horse and figure this out. And to be honest with you, why is there so many people in the middle of all of our veteran service organizations
Absolutely.
getting paid? That should never be the case.
No.
And, Michigan, we have been a huge fighting force for the United States. Michigan, I believe, is ranked probably 7 or 8 in the number of people that serve in the military.
Oh, wow.
Out of all 50.
Wow.
And so we put more of our, dick skinners in the air and fight to defend our country, foreign, domestic, no matter what we do. And yet our state of Michigan can't provide the funding to our veteran service organizations that take care of us after we get home. That's just wrong to me.
Yeah.
And, and now even our government is in a huge shutdown for the last 21 days and doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
And so what's going to happen is, as you see, everything, all of our prices are jumping. If you want to take a plane trip, it's now $200 more because there's not as many planes.
Yeah.
Air traffic controls, the people that, guide the planes back and forth. There's not as many of them because they're not getting paid. So, why is it that our congressmen and women are getting paid when our military isn't? And I think somebody needs to put some legislation up.
I think so, too.
To say if they're going to shut the government down, then the people shutting it down shouldn't get paid either.
Exactly.
Because, they're government employees just like a military guy is.
Yeah. They're the ones causing the chaos,
And that's where America needs to start uniting as one and making sure that they know that if they're going to cause the chaos, they're not getting paid either.
Right.
Because I think that they would sing a different tune if our congressmen and women or senators, state senators, if they didn't get their paychecks every 2 weeks.
Right.
Right? I think they would sing a different tune about shutting down the government.
Yeah. And just like when Michigan couldn't balance their budget. I know that, the schools in Michigan, their first quarter is not in October. Their first quarter is June, I believe. June. So they had to operate as businesses, 2 quarters before they got their budget money. There was so many school districts that was concerned that they were going to have to close the entire district. It's bullshit. Our government's bullshit. You've put legislation out there. You've worked with your brother doing things. What's step 1?
Step 1?
Yeah.
Step 1 is creating a bill to get passed through the House. Then it goes to the Senate. Then once those are passed, then the governor signs it. I believe. I mean, I'm not the biggest politician in the world. I definitely don't have the mouth of a politician. I swear too much. But but if we're allotted money, doesn't matter what it is. If the budget allots money for something, then that money should be handed out on the date it's supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Right? There should be no wait. It doesn't matter if it's for, say, schools, or if it's for our military, or if it's for our veteran service organizations.
So let me ask you this real quick. Doesn't it feel like the government is just boning the shit out of the people that do the most good? That need the money the most? They're the ones that they're boning. They're not boning, all these rich people, all these company owners and all this stuff. It's the kids, it's the veterans, it's all of those. You know what I mean? Like,
well, the small person always pays.
Yeah.
Right? The rich guy doesn't care that everything is jumping in price because he's got the money to do it.
Right.
Right? And, you got in New York right now with Mondawi or whatever his name is, the big socialist. He wants to give everybody everything for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that can't happen either, right? That's never sustainable.
No.
Right? No matter how much you tax the rich, no matter this, no matter that, that's still not sustainable. They've tried it in the 80s. They've tried it in the 90s. They tried it quite a few times over the past, and it's never panned out to work. Right? You just can't give everything away for free.
No.
And to be honest with you, with the crime that is now starting to go down, thank God, over the last 9 months. I mean, you're having people getting pushed in the subways.
Yeah.
You're having, people getting robbed, carjackings. I mean, just bad things happening to everyday regular people because a lot of criminals were let into this country. And now that we're getting rid of them, it's a big problem. And that's our budget cut is all over funding illegal health care.
Yeah. Illegal
immigrants' health care. Why are we spending billions of dollars on people that aren't even in here for our country?
Right.
Right? I feel bad. Some of them were probably, are not bad people.
Right.
Right? But they still got to come in the right way. Mm-hmm. I mean,
there's rules, right?
And if you don't follow the rules, then what's the point of the rule?
I know. My favorite line in any movie ever was in Big Lebowski. I've screamed this many times in my life. I came from a family of you follow the rules. I'm always like, am I the only one who gives a shit about the rules? Like things have to be a certain way.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, these are some of the topics that America's dealing with right now. And, for one thing, I do believe that never once should our military ever worry about being funded.
Correct.
Right? They're our nation's fighting force. They volunteered, at least ever since Vietnam, it's been a volunteer force to do something for the greater good of mankind, to do something for the greater good of the United States, to do something for our American citizens who are over here working day in and day out. We are putting our lives on the line. And for that 1% of America, we should never have to worry about the government shutting down or whether the military is going to get paid.
Right.
The military should be the number one spot where it doesn't matter what happens in our government, we should get paid.
Absolutely.
Because we are doing a job that not a lot of 98% of America doesn't do.
Right.
And, a good 50% of them never want to do.
Right.
Right. But for that 2%, 1.5, 2% of Americans that served or have served, we need to be taken care of, because if it wasn't for us, the freedoms that we have and enjoy every day wouldn't be there.
Correct.
And so for any civilian out there that likes their freedom, just remember that didn't come from nowhere. Mm-hmm. That came from men and women fighting on the front lines, dying for our country, dying for your right to be able to go to the store, to have freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, the right to defend yourself, everything. Our Constitution was built on our military.
Yes.
And since the beginning of time, of America's time, we have been fighting for our freedoms. And so those freedoms that Americans hold so dear, you wouldn't have them if it wasn't for our military.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's what we'll leave off today, but we're going to start doing a little bit more podcast kind of similar to this versus just a question and answer. So for our listeners, look up what's going to be coming up next. Go to warfightersunited.com. That's our new webpage. By the time this comes out, there should be a store. We'll have hoodies. We'll have shirts that say warfightersunited.com.
That's a good-looking sweatshirt.
Yeah. I tell you what, I even love my nickname that I got. But you can always find our podcast on Warfighters United Podcast on Facebook. You can find it on warfightersunited.com. And, pay attention to what's going on in our military today, because you never know when the next time that our country is going to go to war. But we need to be as strong and capable as possible to make sure that we can fight for the freedoms so we still have them.
Absolutely.
All right.
To speak with Eric Calley and Warfighters United, you can email him at eric@warfightersunited.com or call 517-699-0111.